What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the economic calendar, what news is coming out for today that's very important for Tesla, what you should be watching for from a technical standpoint for Tesla and the markets. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. Now, the stock runs in just about 12 hours from now, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market and Tesla. Tesla's currently down about 0.87% during the pre-market, but SPY is up, and the market is still trying to push a bit. However, I wouldn't, in my opinion, fully trust the move the market's making because there's a risk of some downside coming, and I believe that either the bottom is in and the market, like SPY is going to see another big drop before this thing, gets a very, very nice November squeeze, or we're about to form the final bottom and then the market's going to bounce. And I think that those are the two possibilities. And I still hold the same view about November being a green month for the markets for us to see a nice short squeeze, but there could be a little bit more downside coming uh, before we get that bounce. But I'm going to break down how this could affect Tesla and also some other important factors. Now, to start us off, we have some important data coming out. We have the house price index report coming out very, very soon at 9 o'clock a.m. And then after this, once the market opens, we have three main pieces of data. We have the Chicago PMI at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time. At 10 o'clock a.m. with the consumer confidence reports, giving us a gauge of consumer sentiment. And then finally at 10:30 a.m., we have the Dallas Fed Services data. So we have those three pieces of data at 9:45, 10, and 10:30 a.m. to cause some volatility. So watch for this as time progresses. We're going to see how this affects the markets. Now, moving forward, I just wanted to mention that we have other pieces of data coming out that are going to affect earnings. So we have Pfizer, Caterpillar, and JetBlue announcing earnings very soon. Then we have AMD announcing earnings after the market closes for today. Don't forget, for Wednesday, we have PayPal and Roku earnings. And then for Thursday, we have Apple's earnings, which is going to be very important. Now, a couple of things to know before the stock market opens. I'm going to try to be kind of quick. The market made a bounce on Monday, which is what we expected, was what we were trying to anticipate. But now the question is, will the market end up failing? Is the market going to start sinking later on, or is the market going to try to continue to hold up? Another news came out that GM has likely reached a deal to stop the strikes that were going on at their facilities. This is decent news, but there are some pieces of news coming out that the strikes could expand to different companies, so we'll be waiting for that. Tesla's ghost Tesla, that investors ghost Tesla, excuse me, that's what this is saying. This news is coming out that many of these big investors are ditching Tesla. They're saying that Tesla's down too much. It's getting hit. It is true that Tesla has a lot of macroeconomic factors against it right now. If you look at what's happening with demand across the world and Tesla's price cuts and their margins, it's hurting them for the short term. But I see this as a blessing because it's giving us more buying opportunities for the long term. I'm very excited for what's about to come. There's also news about how McDonald's is going to be raising prices with Chipotle in California as fast food workers' minimum wage has increased to like $20 an hour. Finally, last but not least, the high spirits at Pinterest. This is once again good news for them because they're set to rip after good earnings so far. So we'll see how this goes. We're also waiting for a couple of other earnings. But anyways, that's it for the news affecting the markets for now. Finally, for Tesla, there's negative news coming out about how it dropped on the Panasonic battery warning, and it's down 18% since earnings. So this is not the best of news, and Tesla still remains bearish as of right now. And now I just want to break down how Tesla in the market is looking. So on the weekly, we have a downtrend on Tesla. If you look at the weekly, and the very critical support is still holding as of right now. You guys can see we're just barely above the 200 EMA at 196. So we need to see if Tesla can hold this level. If we break this support right here, there could be a bigger risk for downside very close to that range. And if we lose this, we're going to be watching 193, 190, and those other levels. So for Tesla, we have this potential bearish pennant-like formation, so there's a risk of some downside. But here's some important levels. If Tesla tries to rebound, you're going to be watching this resistance right here, very close to 198, as being important resistance. If we break this, watch 200. If we get above 200 and close there, that's going to be a sign of a reversal. As of right now, it does not look like that, as Tesla's looking weak on the weekly and the daily. If Tesla ends up breaking below support right over here at 194, you're going to be watching 193. If we lose that, watch 190, and then the critical support below 190 is going to be 186. There is a risk of some downside for the markets in Tesla, so I just wanted to warn you about that because we have a potential bearish looking pennant, and we could see this continue to sink. Now, I also wanted to add that on SPY also has some bearish looking signals. We have First off, you can't forget that yesterday we gapped up and we haven't filled the gap below. So there's a risk of this thing coming all the way back down to 410 very, very soon. But on the 5-minute time frame, there's a bearish divergence. There's a larger one, and then there's a triple bearish divergence on the smaller time frame. On the 30 minutes time frame, we happen to have a bearish divergence. On the hourly, there's a bearish divergence as well. There's a double bearish divergence right here. Let me just double check this. Yeah, that's a double. And then simultaneously, you can't forget that when you look at the daily is making an attempt to bounce, but there's no guarantee we're ready yet, because you could see there have been days where we have like 2 sell-offs, 2 green days, 3 sell-offs, 2 green days, 3 sell-offs. We could get 1 or 2 green days and then another sell-off. Uh, no guarantees, but I just want to warn you all that you got to be very careful with SPY, because I do anticipate some downside. I think we're going to revisit 410 very soon. We may pop first, and that's why we're going to be watching these levels, looking at the current technicals. So for SPY, we're going to be watching 417 as resistance. If we break this, watch 417.5 and 418. If we get above 418, there's going to be potential for 420. We are technically on an uptrend, but we're developing bearish divergences. So I think that the most likely possibility is we kind of pop a bit and then we start dropping. And we could continue to drop depending on the Fed or the FOMC meeting or even Apple's earnings. But even if we do drop, guys, here's what I'm saying, okay? SPY could establish a higher low by filling the gap at 411 and then bouncing. Or we could break our low at 409 and come all the way down towards like 404. And then we bounce after that. Either way, whether we drop down to 410 or 404, I think the market's going to bottom soon. I still think we're in a bottoming process, and we're going to start uptrending very strongly for the month of November. I still hold that view. I believe that the market bottom is coming, and I believe the market's getting ready for a massive bounce. Now, the real bounce may not be ready yet. We're going to likely sink back down. We have this gap to fill down here. So I think we could see SPY eventually break down. But the most likely move is going to be we kind of pop a little bit and we see this thing drop later on. And we're going to either establish a new bottom or the bottom is in. And then SPY is going to be ready. It's going to be done with all the big selling. And we're going to get ready for a nice uptrend after that. All right. So I hope that's as clear as possible. Look for a little pop and drop today. And look for a bigger drop over the next few days, possibly. And then a nice bounce, a very, very beautiful bounce later on. Maybe it's after FOMC, maybe after Apple's earnings, maybe by next week, the market starts uptrending and the bulls return. The QQQ, it also has bearish divergences on the 5 minutes and etc. But we also have this gap down here. I think this could retest 350. If we break it, watch 352. If we fail, watch 348. If we lose that, watch it come down to 346. I think this thing's going to pop and then drop, and we're going to eventually fill the gap down to 345 over the next couple of days. So I anticipate a little pop for the QQQ. We could get very close to 350 to 352, and then reject and come back down towards 345. And then eventually this thing will either bottom or the bottom is in. And we're going to get a very nice bounce later on after the drop happens. Hopefully that's as clear as possible. On Nvda, same thing is going on. I'm going to be watching Nvda try to retest 409 or so. If we start sinking, watch 405 as key support, 402, and then 400. If Nvda loses 400, we could break a new low, but if we establish a bullish divergence, it could bounce later on. Look for a little drop and then a pop on Nvda. And don't forget to be watching resistance at 407, 409, 410, 412.5, 414, and then 417 as some resistance levels. We also have AMT's earnings after the market closes, so we'll see how that affects Nvidia. But look for a little drop and then a pop. I also want to call out that Nvidia on the daily is forming a doji. No guarantees it's ready for a true bounce yet. I just want to be very careful. And we could just establish another bullish divergence for another drop before this thing bounces. But we'll see what happens with the earnings and how, AMD's earnings affects it. So don't forget, SPY in the market could kind of like pop first. Nvidia may pop first and then drop later on, establish its bottom, and then try to bounce, at least approaching its earnings. And last but not least, for Apple stock, this thing is broken below its little channel. So there is a risk of this dropping a little bit. So I just want to be very careful with Apple. If we lose 169, watch it come down to 168. If that fails, let's watch 166. For resistance, we break 169.3, watch 170.26. It may pop a little bit. We could see it try to retest like 170 or at least 160.5, then reject. We might see it start to sink. If we lose 169 and watch 168, there's going to be a risk of downside. So look for a little pop and drop on Apple. I believe that earnings will be very telling. And once again, guys, my view of the market is we're either about to establish the bottom or we've already established the bottom. We're going to make a higher low during this next drop that's coming. And then we'll see what happens with the FOMC meeting and Apple's earnings coming out. But I believe, regardless of if we make a higher low and the bottom is in, or if we're about to make a new bottom, regardless of that, the market's going to bottom nonetheless, and we're going to get a nice rally going into November. Now, we could drop a little bit for the first, a little bit of November, but then once we get to the second, third, fourth week, I expect some very nice buying. And I expect a very, very nice bounce. All right. So thank you for listening, guys. Hopefully this video was helpful. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.